Stop for a moment and listen carefully, because if we are holding silver right now, even a single ounce, there's a pressure point forming beneath the market that most people are completely blind to. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, and it is not obvious yet, but it is widening slowly. And when it finally gives way, the people who misunderstood what they were holding will feel it all at once. The real danger here is not that silver is broken, weak, or failing to perform. The danger is that silver is being approached with the wrong mindset, the wrong expectations, and the wrong timing, and the system thrives on investors who react emotionally at predictable moments. This is not accidental. This is design. When we remove the noise, strip away the headlines, and ignore the daily price flickers, something very simple becomes clear. Pressure is building across currencies, across debt, across trust in institutions, and across confidence in the systems people assume will always function smoothly. And when pressure builds inside a system, wealth does not disappear. It does not evaporate. It relocates. It moves carefully, deliberately, and unemotionally from those who react to those who prepare, from those who chase comfort to those who build structure, from those who panic to those who wait. And if we fail to create a real framework for why we own what we own, then without realizing it, we become the exit liquidity for someone else's well-planned move. This is not about luck. It is not about guessing. It is about positioning. And positioning requires awareness, patience, and rules. Watch this pattern closely, because it repeats every time without exception. Whenever the world enters a major transition, whether through rate shocks, inflation waves, banking stress, currency instability, or geopolitical friction, the same psychological cycle plays out. People demand certainty. Markets refuse to provide it, and the crowd makes the same mistake again and again by treating a strategic asset like an emotional scoreboard. When silver rises, they feel validated. When silver falls, they feel betrayed. But silver is not betraying anyone. It is revealing whether we ever had a real plan at all. There is a quiet belief that destroys portfolios more reliably than bad assets ever could. The belief that success depends on being right about direction. That belief is wrong. Being right does not matter if we cannot stay solvent, calm, and rational long enough for the cycle to complete. Survival is the objective. Longevity is the edge. A seasoned investor once described it perfectly by saying, "Money is not something you win. It is something that transfers." Markets operate like conveyor belts, steadily moving value away from weak hands and into steady ones. So the real question is not whether silver eventually rises. The real question is, what happens if it moves sharply against us first? Do we abandon our position under pressure, or do we execute our plan exactly as designed? This is where honesty matters. Everyone believes they are disciplined until discipline is tested. Charts do not test intelligence. They test behavior. If holding silver is causing anxiety, stress, or constant monitoring, that is not a message from the metal. That is feedback from our risk management. It reveals the gap between what we own and why we own it. Silver is not meant to deliver constant excitement. It is not entertainment. It is a pressure valve. It exists to perform when paper confidence erodes, not to soothe emotions when everything feels comfortable. And when paper systems begin to crack, silver does not need to perform theatrically. It needs to function reliably. That difference matters. The most common mistake people make is attaching a fantasy timeline to silver. They expect it to behave like a momentum stock, delivering steady progress and instant gratification. But silver does not operate that way. It is cyclical by nature. It sleeps for extended periods. It spikes violently without warning. It punishes impatience and rewards endurance. It runs hardest when belief is lowest, not when enthusiasm is highest. That discomfort is not a flaw. It is the mechanism. Silver forces us to confront at time, and most people hate confronting time because patience feels like powerlessness. Now let's separate fact from interpretation. Fact. As financial stress increases, volatility increases. Fact. Volatility punishes those without structure more than any other force in markets. Interpretation. Silver becomes a psychological battleground, and the market exploits that battleground to extract emotional capital from undisciplined participants. This is educational content, and risk must be managed responsibly. So what do we actually do? We build structure, not optimism, not hope. Structure. Think of a bridge. A bridge is not designed for calm weather. It is engineered for wind, stress, and load. A portfolio must be engineered the same way. It must assume pressure, not perfection. The first rule that matters is simple. Silver only becomes dangerous when it is treated like a gamble. So gambling stops immediately. We define silver's role clearly. Is it insurance against currency erosion? Is it a store of long-term purchasing power? Is it a volatility hedge? If we cannot define that role in one sentence, then we are not investing. We are reacting. The second rule is survival over timing. Obsessing over perfect entries is useless without an exit plan, position sizing, and emotional tolerance. If our position is too large, every dip feels catastrophic. If it is sized correctly, volatility becomes data instead of fear. This is the shift that separates professionals from amateurs. Stop asking whether we are right. Start asking whether we are built to withstand uncertainty. Because the market preys on urgency. When price drops suddenly, the instinct to act feels overwhelming. That instinct is expensive. Emotional action is a direct transfer of money to someone calmer than us. So rules must exist before volatility appears. Rules for size, rules for entry, rules for exit, rules for patience, rules for doing nothing. Doing nothing at the right time is not laziness, it is skill. And here's the truth most people avoid. Prediction is fragile. Risk management is durable. Prediction breaks when conditions change. Risk management survives change. And survival is the prerequisite for compounding. Now be honest with yourself. Are you positioned or are you exposed? Because markets identify exposure instantly. Forced sellers are predictable. They appear after fear spikes and before reversals. You have seen it countless times. Prices dip, headlines scream, fear peaks, weak hands sell, and price recovers without them. This is not stupidity. It is emotion. And emotion is predictable. That predictability is the business model. And this is where the real risk begins, not with silver, but with systems. Rules can change when authorities feel cornered. Stability is often chosen over freedom under pressure. Costs are shifted outward. And adults recognize this reality instead of denying it. Holding silver responsibly means identifying real risks. Storage, liquidity, counterfeits, premiums, taxes, behavior. And the largest risk of all is not the market. It is us. A person can hold the correct asset and still lose money by exiting at the wrong time, oversizing or chasing validation. We are not here for excitement. We are here for control. Control over time. Control over choices. Control over the future. High income without control is a cage. Assets exist to buy freedom, not ego. This is a wealth transfer in motion, and it is behavioral. Every crisis divides people into two groups, those who freeze and those who reposition. The crisis does not choose winners, responses do. Selling a hedge because it becomes uncomfortable is like discarding a life jacket during rough water. Volatility is not failure, it is testing. And tests are passed with structure, not hope. Discipline is not motivation. Motivation fades. Discipline endures. Consistency, adaptation, humility. That is how people remain solvent long enough to succeed. The real question is not what to buy. It is what we can tolerate, because tolerance defines outcomes. And that brings us to the warning sign most people miss. It is not price, it is friction. When paper prices diverge from real-world access, spreads, and delivery, something is changing beneath the surface. And this is only the beginning. When friction begins to show, that is when reality quietly separates from the screen. Most people believe the price they see is the market itself, but that number is only a snapshot, a frozen frame. The real market lives in movement, access, delivery, spreads, and behavior. If something is truly unwanted, sellers compete aggressively, spreads compress, availability is everywhere, and incentives appear to push it off their hands. But when something is becoming scarce beneath the surface, the opposite pattern emerges. Spreads widen subtly, delivery times stretch, availability tightens, dealers hesitate. Out-of-stock notices multiply quietly, not loudly, like warning lights that most people ignore because they are trained to watch price alone. This is where many silver holders get misled. They see a quote and assume it tells the full story. But markets do not function on quotes alone. They function on friction, and friction always appears before the narrative changes. This is not hype. This is mechanics. It is how supply and demand reveal stress before headlines catch up. And those who wait for confirmation from headlines usually arrive late, emotionally charged, and poorly positioned. There's another trap here that deserves honest attention. Many people end up paying for stories instead of substance. They are drawn to novelty, limited editions, collectibles, ornate designs, packaging that feels special. It creates a sense of exclusivity and importance. But when systems tighten and function becomes more important than aesthetics, the market does not reward decoration. It rewards simplicity. Refiners, manufacturers, and liquidity providers care about weight, purity, recognizability, and ease of verification. Atoms matter more than artwork. So we must ask ourselves a hard question. Are we accumulating silver for appearance, or are we holding it for function? Because when stress rises, function dominates. There are also risks people rarely want to discuss because they are boring and uncomfortable. Verification risk, storage risk, access risk, counterfeit risk. If we cannot verify what we own, then ownership is an illusion. If we cannot access it when needed, then it is a locked option. If we cannot trust its authenticity, then it is a liability disguised as an asset. Responsibility is not exciting, but it is essential. So we build processes, trusted sources, documentation, storage with intention, not hoarding, optionality, And now comes the pattern that usually causes the most damage. When silver finally enters public attention again, it does not happen calmly, it happens emotionally. People rush in, they chase, they overpay, they compress future returns into the present. And then the market does what it always does. It pulls back, shakes confidence, and humiliates late entrants. That is why the real edge is not being early or loud. The edge is being prepared before the sprint begins. Preparation feels boring, but boredom is often the cost of future strength. So we think in layers, not impulses. The first layer is the thesis. Why do we own silver at all? The second layer is risk. What invalidates that thesis? What changes the landscape? The third layer is execution. How we enter, how we add, how we hold, and yes, how we exit. Exit is not betrayal, it is completion. Holding forever is not courage, it is avoidance. We marry the process, not the asset. And this is where self-sabotage usually reveals itself. Not in price action, but in behavior. The need for constant validation, the discomfort of boredom, the urge to act because stillness feels like danger. That is not strategy. That is nervous energy masquerading as intelligence. Strategy is quiet. Strategy is repetitive. Strategy survives embarrassment. So the play is not complicated, but it is demanding. We keep silver in its lane. We do not ask it to solve every problem. We build a portfolio that can breathe. We keep liquidity so nothing forces our hand. We size positions so sleep is possible. We diversify so one chart does not dominate our psychology. We treat every decision like architecture, because architecture survives storms. Emotion does not. Now let's speak directly to the person who feels shaken, frustrated, or exhausted by waiting. You're not weak for feeling this way. You're human. Waiting is uncomfortable because it offers no feedback. There's no applause for patience. There's no daily reward for restraint. Patience does not pay hourly. It pays in chunks. And those chunks arrive after pressure, not before it. The boredom is the toll booth. The drawdown is the test. The moment you feel foolish is the gate. Most people turn back right there. Not because they are wrong, but because they are uncomfortable. We do not need certainty to act intelligently. We need conditions. If monetary stress deepens, silver's role strengthens. If policy pressure rises, silver becomes more relevant. If risk assets wobble, hedges regain attention. These are relationships, not predictions. This is how professionals speak. Not in absolutes, but in probabilities and responses. And this brings us to a simple but powerful exercise that exposes the truth of our positioning. Write down, in one sentence, why we hold silver. Not a paragraph. One sentence. Then write down, in one sentence, what would make us change our mind. If we cannot do this clearly, then we are not invested. We are attached. And attachment is expensive. Ask yourself honestly, are we holding silver for insurance, or are we holding it for profit? These are different goals. They require different expectations. And if silver drops 15% this month, do we have a rule, or do we have hope? Hope is not a strategy. Hope is what people lean on when structure is missing. This is where communities diverge. Some groups reinforce emotion. Others reinforce discipline. We choose discipline. We choose clarity over excitement. We choose preparation over noise. Because the next phase of this cycle will not reward volume. It will reward readiness. And here's the final warning for this segment. Markets do not need to defeat us. They only need to shake us. They only need to trigger impatience. So if we are going to hold silver in a world that is changing, we hold it like professionals. Calm, measured, structured. Because wealth never disappears. It only moves. And the question that remains is simple. Is it moving away from us or toward us? Now we arrive at the point where most people misunderstand what strength actually looks like. Strength is not certainty. Strength is not confidence. Strength is not bold predictions or dramatic declarations. Strength is quiet alignment between what we believe, how we position, and how we behave when pressure shows up uninvited. And pressure always shows up uninvited. The market never asks permission before it tests conviction. It simply applies force and observes who breaks. This is why silver exposes behavior so efficiently. It does not reward impatience. It does not comfort emotional decision-making. It does not respond to entitlement. It responds to structure. And structure is invisible until it is needed. That is why so many people believe they have a plan until volatility arrives and reveals that what they had was a hope dressed up as strategy. Hope collapses under stress. Structure adapts. Let's talk about the psychological trap that ends most silver journeys prematurely. The need for constant reassurance. Humans are wired to seek feedback. We want signals that tell us we are doing the right thing. Silver often refuses to provide that feedback for long stretches of time. And in those stretches, doubt grows louder than logic. People begin questioning the thesis, not because the thesis changed, but because silence feels threatening. This is where most exits occur. Not at peaks, not at bottoms, but during boredom and frustration. And then something predictable happens. After weak hands exit, conditions slowly tighten. Stress increases elsewhere. Narratives shift. And suddenly the same asset that felt dead becomes urgent again. Prices rise quickly. Access tightens. Premiums widen. And those who sold for emotional relief buy back at worse terms. This is not bad luck. This is behavioral math repeating itself. This is why we do not anchor our decisions to comfort. Comfort is expensive. We anchor to rules. We anchor to process. We anchor to alignment. If silver is part of our strategy, then its role must be respected. It is not there to outperform everything all the time. It is there to respond when systems strain. Asking it to behave differently is like blaming a fire extinguisher for not cooking dinner. Wrong tool, wrong expectation. Now let's address something uncomfortable but necessary. Many people confuse conviction with stubbornness. Conviction is flexible within boundaries. Stubbornness ignores evidence. A disciplined silver holder is not blind. They monitor policy shifts. They observe liquidity. They track real-world friction. They assess whether the conditions that justified holding silver are strengthening or weakening. What they do not do is react to noise, headlines, or short-term discomfort. And this brings us to a truth most people avoid. Every asset has a cost of carry, not just financial, but psychological. Stocks cost volatility. Bonds cost inflation risk. Cash costs purchasing power. Silver costs patience. If we are unwilling to pay that cost, we should not hold the asset. There is no shame in choosing differently. The mistake is holding something whose cost we secretly resent. This is why clarity matters more than conviction. When we are clear, volatility does not surprise us. It was expected. It was seen in advance. And because it was expected, it does not feel personal. Markets do not attack us. They simply express conditions. When we feel attacked, it is because expectations were misaligned with reality. So let's return to the foundation. Why does silver exist in a portfolio at all? It exists because systems built on confidence eventually test that confidence. It exists because monetary regimes shift. It exists because not all risk is visible on a screen. And it exists because optionality has value during transitions. That value is not always priced daily. Sometimes it is priced suddenly. This is why professionals do not measure success by constant motion. They measure it by resilience. Can the portfolio absorb shocks without forcing decisions? Can it tolerate uncertainty without panic? Can it endure periods of boredom without self-sabotage? These are not exciting questions. They are essential ones. And now we need to confront a difficult reality. If silver never moved again, if it remained stagnant for years, would our life still function? If the answer is no, then silver was missized. It was given too much responsibility. Assets should support life, not dominate it. This is why liquidity matters. This is why diversification matters. This is why position sizing matters. Not for returns, but for sanity. Because the market's greatest advantage is not speed or information. It is emotional leverage. It waits for frustration. It waits for exhaustion. It waits for the moment people abandon discipline for relief. And that relief is purchased at a premium. Always. So we choose differently. We choose to operate instead of react. Operators do not chase. They allocate. Operators do not panic. They plan. Operators do not require perfect conditions. They require a calm process. And a calm process outperforms chaos over time. This is where the conversation shifts from markets to maturity. Adults understand trade-offs. Adults accept uncertainty. Adults build buffers. Children demand guarantees. Markets punish demands for guarantees. They reward preparation. Now let's close the open loop we introduced earlier. The warning sign is friction, when access becomes uneven, when spreads widen without headlines, when delivery takes longer, when the paper story and the physical experience diverge. That is when attention matters, not panic. Attention, observation, adjustment if necessary, but never emotion. And here's the final piece that ties everything together. Wealth is not accumulation. Wealth is control. Control over time, control over decisions, control over responses. Silver is not the source of that control. It is a tool. And tools only work when used correctly. We are not here to predict. We are not here to impress. We are not here to win arguments. We are here to survive cycles and position intelligently. That requires humility. It requires restraint. And it requires discipline when discipline feels unrewarded. So if we are going to hold silver, we hold it with intention. We know why we own it. We know what would change our mind. We know how much volatility we can tolerate. And we know that boredom is not danger. Boredom is often preparation disguised as discomfort. The market does not need to beat us. It only needs to shake us. And shaking only works if we are unprepared. So we prepare. Quietly, calmly, deliberately, because wealth never disappears. It only moves. And whether it moves toward us or away from us depends entirely on how we behave when no one is watching. Don't blink.